Hey guys, back with another video. In this video, I'm gonna be playing a few clips or whatever. This one just came out yesterday, and it's describing how Kiwana and Janelle, one is the cousin, Kiwana is the cousin, and Janelle is the great aunt to Nazaya and Shannon, them kids. And the way CPS handled this case, they should be sued because they went and they actually spoke to Jarvis. And I'm wondering, did they even pull his record to even see if he was on the list? You know what I'm saying? Like, they spoke to him. He denied the claims of touching Nazaya and his own daughters. They listed it as the house was clean, low risk levels, and claims found unsubstantial, or some stuff like that. Like this, and then what's crazy about it is that was two claims that was filed, Janelle's and Kiwana's, out of 5 claims against this man, and CPS did nothing. Whoever is the officers that came out each time, they need to be fired. They need their license taken away from them. The whole CPS department needs to be sued. This is ridiculous. Y'all listen to this crap. Now I'm pissed. I'm really, really, really pissed. And then Shannon had the nerve to text Janelle talking crap about CPS contacting her and wanting Jarvis information. This is sad. They are pathetic. So yeah, Janelle and Kiwana, which I knew in the beginning, were the first ones to step up. Not Roxy, not nobody else. Janelle and Kiwana. And they kept hitting a dead end. CPS kept pushing them off, brushing them off, and it kept going. Y'all listen to this.
Right now, Jarvis Butts is awaiting trial for the murder and sexual abuse of Nazaya Harris.
After listening to days of testimony last month, a judge called Butts a monster and said that opportunities to protect the 13-year-old girl were missed. Tonight, the 7 investigators are revealing years of warnings that preceded Butts' alleged crimes.
Warnings that family members say were made to Children's Protective Services that could have saved Nazaya's life. Here's what 7 investigator Ross Jones has uncovered.
You look at that face, and you do not see the horrors that she had gone through in her short life. The exploitation, the molestations, the sexual abuse, and the pregnancy that she was concealing.
Years before Jarvis Butts would be charged by Wayne County's prosecutor, accused of killing and sexually abusing 13-year-old Nazaya Harris, Harris's own relatives say they saw the warning signs and told anyone who would listen.
So that at that point, I was like, this is too much. I'm calling CPS.
I tried not just once, but multiple times for them to take me serious in what I was saying.
Kiwana Morton and her cousin Janelle are both relatives of Nazaya Harris. In February of 2022, Janelle says she learned of allegations of improper touching involving Butts and other small children. She says she was told about the claims while talking to her niece, Jarvis Butts' girlfriend, and that the alleged victims were Nazaya Harris and 2 other children.
I was just like, oh my God, I was not crazy. This needs to be looked into.
She says she took the claim seriously in part because Butts was on the sex offender registry, having spent more than 8 years in prison for third-degree criminal sexual conduct. She didn't alert authorities at first because she believed her niece would notify police. But weeks later, Janelle did notify Child Protective Services. Her complaint came in on April 13, 2022. There was an incident at a birthday party, the complaint reads. One of the children that attended the party accused Jarvis of sexual abuse. Nazaya, and name withheld, reported that Jarvis touched both of them inappropriately as well. Jarvis touched, name withheld, in her private area, and it hurt. Janelle made the complaint over the phone.
They basically told me if they needed me for anything else, they would reach out.
The next day, Janelle would receive a text from her niece, Butts' girlfriend, confirming that CPS had contacted her. CPS called me, the text reads. They called about the well-being of my kids. Then they called back to get Jarvis info. A CPS spokeswoman would not tell 7 News Detroit if investigators ever questioned Nazaya Harris after receiving the complaint. But we do know it wasn't the only complaint filed with CPS naming Jarvis Butts.
And it wasn't easy for me to call Protective Services just because of the horror stories that you hear.
Kawana Morton said she heard about the same allegations against Butts from a conversation with his girlfriend. 2 months after her cousins called to CPS, she would file her own complaint.
I told them that there's a problem and they need to be aware of it. I am 90% sure that there's sexual abuse going on within the home.
Did you specifically mention Jarvis by name?
Yes, absolutely.
Internal CPS records we obtained show that investigators looked into that complaint, conducting a face-to-face interview with Butts, who strongly denied the allegation. A forensic interview was conducted with the alleged victim, and no disclosures were made. CPS said the home was clean and free of observed safety concerns. The allegation was denied, assigned a low-risk level. These are 2 complaints of at least 5 filed with CPS since 2015 naming Jarvis Butts. They allege concerns about possible molestation, physical abuse, or living conditions. Some of the complaints are generic, and none would ultimately substantiate that Butts was improperly touching children. Just over a year after the last complaint on record, Butts would be charged with sexually assaulting and murdering Neziah Harris.
I'm brokenhearted because this could have been prevented. All of it could have been prevented.
Attorneys for Jarvis Butts declined comment for this story, citing his pending criminal case. As for CPS, a spokeswoman for the Department of Health and Human Services said that their hearts go out to the family and friends of Neziah Harris. They said that state and federal laws prohibit them from commenting on what we just reported, but that they are committed to ensuring the health and safety of all children.
Yes, so somebody has to be held accountable for this. CPS is supposed to protect the kids, and they did nothing of that sort. And I'm so mad, y'all. Like, you can't even trust them to do their job right, even when they go into other homes, let alone when they in their own home and things like this happen and they get called. They don't do nothing. But it's okay, because if y'all didn't know, yes, the prosecutor, yes, they stated that it's other charges coming for other people that seen this girl with seen Neziah with Jarvis and other kids with Jarvis, and they did nothing. So yes, they are getting charges put on them, and I'm assuming Annette and Shannon are going to be 2 of them, because they were totally responsible for these kids, and they dropped the ball 100%. So y'all listen to this.
Several people close to Mr. Butts, who we were charging later, saw them together in several different locations. All right, the chief and I will take a few questions, if you have any.
I have one. How did Jarvis Butts have access to Neziah?
He knew some of their family members, some of her family members.
Can you talk about the time frame when you mentioned grooming? Are you able to elaborate at all over how long of a period of time he may have quote unquote groomed or knew her, or?
All I can and will say at this point that it started in 2022.
So just for accuracy, this little girl's remains have never been found?
No.
Is there a thought?
Her body has never been found.
Any thought of where she may be?
Well, if we knew that, we would certainly have a case that we weren't trying. We were trying without a body.
And regardless, can you say what triggered charges now?
Again, there's an incredible amount of material, and one of the reasons why lately I've been giving out amounts of material that we've been going through, because I think people sometimes just do not get it or understand about all the work that it takes by the investigators and by the prosecutors to put a case like this together. Whenever you have a case like this, where there has been no body found, it makes it more difficult, and much more investigation must be done, because we have to be able to prove that the person is deceased.
Are you able to say how long this suspect was on your radar, or when you really started locking in on him?
No, by law I can't really comment on that, because that would leave me in a place where I can't talk about it right now.
Could things have maybe moved forward a little faster if the school police had got with Detroit police right away?
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about?
No, I better not. I have strong opinions there.
You added to that the evidence, however, suggests that Neziah Harris is dead, correct?
We are going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she's dead, as we must do by law.
You can't say what, why?
Because no one's seen her, no friends, no family, no teachers, no medical conditions. Even on her birthday 10 days ago, she contacted no one. This was a child that never missed school, but the school hasn't seen or heard from at all again. This is a young girl who was very active on social media, and crickets, nothing, since January the 9th of 2024.
Anything from the defendant?
And we have other things too that will come out in court.
Any cooperation at all?
She's speaking facts. She's pissed. And I believe that she want to go for everybody that she possibly can get charges on. Because she's, like she said, it's nobody. So they haven't came out with nothing new saying that they have her body. So it's still nobody. She's 100% certain that Neziah is not here anymore. And she has strong opinions on the school situation of why the school dropped the ball like they did and then come to DPD immediately. Everything, I agree with everything she's saying in that clip, but let's continue.
Child that never missed school, but the school hasn't seen or heard from at all again. This is a young girl who was very active on social media, and crickets, nothing, since January the 9th of 2024.
Anything from the defendant?
And we have other things too that will come out in court.
Any cooperation at all, or utterances, statements from the defendant?
I can't get into that.
Without being able to speak in detail, I'm sure, do you have any evidence to indicate manner and location of death or where this might have occurred?
No, because we can't do that unless we have a body.
Mr. Butts is currently facing charges being prosecuted by your office. Can you talk additional charges before these? Can you talk about those at all?
He is, and we next appear in court on Monday, January 30th.
Have there been any other arrests made in this case?
I don't think so.
We just saw an unfounded rumor that there were family members arrested. Didn't know if you could squash that or confirm that.
It's an unfounded rumor. It's not true.
Thank you.
Do you have an idea of how long Neziah may have been being molested?
Again, the sexual abuse began based on the evidence that we have in 2022. Or at least the grooming began in 2022.
Are you able to say how far along she was on her pregnancy?
We don't know because we don't have a body.
I have a question for Chief Witt just about missing children just broadly. When these types of cases happen, obviously we get the reports all the time of missing children. Can you talk about what you think didn't work in this case? You know, in terms of like maybe the seriousness that was considered when she first went missing and reported to DPSD, CD, versus what got to you guys?
I would much rather have had the case earlier. I don't know if the outcome would have been any different based on some of the things we've learned in the course of the investigation, but we may have had an opportunity to recover even more evidence. But we're pretty confident that the evidence that we have is strong. We know it is, in fact. But you can never have enough evidence. So if there's anything that could have gone a little bit better with regards to the first time that we were brought in, I would have wanted to be brought in much earlier. For that reason.
Just a background on Jarvis Butts. What's his age and is he from Detroit?
He's 41 years old, from Highland Park, I believe.
Yeah.
And Chief, as soon as you guys got word of this, you guys were out immediately, right? I think you were even out searching. You guys set up a command post.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we took over the case after we were briefed. We took charge of the case, and our teams got engaged in it immediately and hit the ground running, and didn't look back.
Can you talk about, Chief White or maybe Sergeant Jones, the Neziah's case in connection to the other missing young people, girls, children, like what your workload looks like, how you balance those cases and are able to, the numbers of youth that are missing right now?
Yeah, well, we make that public. We put it on our social media pages. There's a number of misinformation, misconceptions about missings. Oftentimes what we have is kids that run away for a day or two. They have a way of investigating these cases. They know the ones that routine runaways, if you will, They still look, they still go out, but there's ways to do it, going to the schools, social media with kids. It's a big benefit to us for our investigations. And they also know when they become serious missings. All missings are serious, but internally there's a title that it has been elevated to a serious missing, and that involves a lot more work and connection with the family. Each time we get a call, we go out to the home, regardless of whether or not it's a person who has run away or a routine runaway or serious missing. We check the home. We have found kids in the home hiding. So it's really complex and would take its own news conference to explain it. I will tell you this, they do a very good job. We've got thousands of kids this year that have been returned home. Many of which were runaways, so we don't have a condition where kids are being picked up on the street and kidnapped. We did have an incident a couple years ago where that happened, and the prosecutor charged that person. In fact, they were just recently convicted. So it's a lot that goes into it. We'd be more than happy to sit down and explain our process with you if you want to do something on an aside.
Chief, assuming then, inferring that investigators knew early on this was not a runaway case, or just if you can share some details of the fact that I'm assuming you knew pretty quickly this was not what she did as far as running a runaway case, or just if you can share some details of the fact that I'm assuming you knew pretty quickly this was not what she did as far as running and there was some foul play involved, and if you can address the complexities that the prosecutor alluded to of not having a body and how you build a case around that.
Well, the prosecutor builds cases. We bring evidence to the prosecutor. We bring our investigation, and she makes the charging decision. So I don't want to get into that lane because it's not mine. I'll tell you, as I said earlier, the prosecutor has alluded to a lot, and there's a lot in the press release as to what goes into it. These folks looking at hours and hours of video evidence, and as the prosecutor indicated earlier, I don't think people recognize in this new age of modern technology what that has done to investigative process. The days of old school investigations, some of that stuff still is valid and important. You got to get out on the street, knock on doors, and talk to people. But what the digital world has brought us is new opportunities to find additional information and the cadence in which people communicate, right? Every one of us have these things in our pocket called cell phones that we use for everything. And if people go dark, and they've never been dark, and particularly kids, they show their food, they show their school, they take selfies, and when that stops, that elevates your concern as to why did it stop. So it's a very complex process. These are the experts. I'm just the chief. But again, we can sit down and talk to you about it in great detail, but a lot goes into it. And when you're talking about 111 gigabytes of information and text messages and dumping phones and literally going through methodically each one of the pages and the text messages and the communication as to when they stopped and the last word said that should have prompted a response. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I can't get into that. All those things elevate your curiosity and brings you into other areas. So it takes a lot more time, but when you get it all right and you pull all the things together, you become as confident as we are now with this case. And we're very, very, very happy that this predator, this child predator, will not be able to hurt any more children and frankly, any more women, because we know that the women were a pathway to the children. That's that. Period. And I'm going to stop there before I get in trouble with the prosecutor.
506 gigabytes just from the cell phones.
Are there any other people that are close to her family that may be charged?
This investigation's over, and we have charged the one single person that's responsible for not only her death, the evidence show, but also for the sexual assaults that we have charged today.
And what are his priors? Do we have those?
Oh, I definitely can't go there. I'll lose my law license.
Chief, some of Naziah's relatives said they previously had talked to CPS about allegations of sexual abuse for Naziah and other kids. Did that ever make it to your office? Is that something that police have investigated before?
Yeah, let me just say this, that if anyone that is watching this press conference right now or reads any of the coverage that I'm sure that you will give this, has any reason to believe that they were a victim of his or that they know something else, we certainly welcome them to contact the Detroit Police Department.
So you can't say if there were any previous reports on that?
No.
Has Mr. Butts made any admissions at all?
We can't talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So she just confused the hell out of me with the part about nobody else being charged for the murder, the unaliving. But then I thought about it. Maybe it's just nobody else is being charged for the unaliving part of it, but other charges as far as like child neglect, stuff like that, is where the other people are going to get charged. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button. Peace.